So this is interesting. The label says eggplant box, 茄子盒, and it's basically a pair of eggplants with like a piece of meat in between. So it's like a mini burger with eggplant. So it tastes quite good.
It was another peaceful early morning in China, and today we will be visiting the Wulong Karst Geological Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and honestly, an astonishingly beautiful place.
So there's a massive transformer here. Probably means that something inside this area has been featured in a Transformer film.
This is exactly right, as you'll see.
The words up here says 天生三桥, which means natural three bridges, something like that. And I think the feature items in this scenic area is three naturally formed rock bridges. So we'll go take a look. Isn't that something? One thing I really like about China really is that virtually anywhere you go in China you can find these really cool mountains. Although I do have sort of a love-hate relationship with this sort of really wide paved paths. You know, I love me my honest to god dirt trails, but I guess this makes it a lot more accessible.
你要拍了没有？
没。1、2、3。
This modern-looking structure is the Xiannvshan Ti, literally celestial dragon rotating elevator. And per the name, it is a glass elevator that rotates, taking us down about 100 meters to the valley below and putting on a bit of a show.
So 100 meters does not sound like too much, but looking at it like that, dang, that looks impressive. So probably it's gonna get a little hard from here because there are a lot of these people here who are offering the services to literally lift you on their backs. So if you cannot walk or you wanna experience what it feels like to be, I don't know, an ancient rich man, then you can engage the services.
It turned out to just be a long flight of stairs, and we were going downhill, so this seemed rather unnecessary. We were soon walking deep in the valley, and we were mesmerized by the tall cliffs that surrounded us. But up ahead was something even more striking. The first of the park's three natural bridges, an unfathomable, towering edifice.
So I'm doing my level best here to try to convey to you just the sheer enormity of this rock structure here. Really incredible, really dwarfs you when you look at it. This is what I love about mountains.
The path led us underneath the great archway, and from high along the rocky interior we could see cascades of falling water, which then pool in clear streams near our feet.
Okay, apparently I can like run up these stairs here and get like a really nice shot down at like a movie set from one of the Zhang Yimou movies, so I'm gonna try to do that.
Sure enough, I was rewarded with a high view of some really picturesque buildings, created for the set of the 2006 film Curse of the Golden Flower.
Okay, really cool shot. Time to rush back down. Okay, so this is the thing I was just looking at, but at ground level. And it looked like there was some shots inside when I was up there. And sure enough, the long march of capitalism does not cease. And that's where I was, right there.
Admittedly, it was a pretty cool place to have a drink, surrounded as it was by these titanic cliffs.
So this is what's recommended to us. It's pumpkin juice, I think with some milk or something. Tastes alright. I'm not sure if I like it that much, but it's alright. Nice and warm. Alright, so that was the first of the natural rock bridges, quite appropriately called Tianlongqiao, which means Sky Dragon Bridge. So apparently when they found this place, they discovered 11 clans of people living here, and they were apparently living in this flat area right here, absolutely surrounded by mountains.
The families have since been relocated, and in their place now stood several odd art pieces, as well as transformer statues. But apparently in the old days, any contact with the outside world would have to have happened by hiking over the least steep opening through the surrounding mountains. Meanwhile, looming just ahead was the second natural bridge.
So unfortunately there seems to be some construction maintenance work going on, which takes away from things a little bit, but this is still pretty. Look at that enormous formation. This one is Qinglongqiao, which is Green Dragon Bridge, and it is no less impressive. Look at that. So the whole deal with this apparently is that the kind of silhouette of the cavern here is supposed to resemble kind of a rising cup.
As we continued on, a shower of water from the high cliff brushed over us, and we briefly mistook it for rain. Some distance later, we turned to look at the bridge from behind, and were stunned to see it spreading across the misty sky, resembling an enormous eagle.
That's the head and the wings spreading out. Look at it that way, it kind of evokes the imagery of a titan. Dang. And right on cue, I think we are coming up on the third rock bridge here. No less epic. So the third and final bridge is Heilongqiao, which means Black Dragon Bridge, and that probably evokes the fact that this is almost kind of a cave here, so it's pretty dark.
This one also seemed to have the most depth to it, and overhead again were numerous cascades of falling water, shimmering in the light.
Alright, so next, this here
旁边的树枝那边
is supposed to look like a gorilla.
啊，
It kinda does. So those are the three bridges, but apparently we're still about 1 kilometer from the exit, so we'll see what comes next. So here's where they do the thing where they take a picture of you and you get a small version of that picture for free, but if you want the larger high quality version then you need to pay some money for it.
We were still deep in the bottom of the gorge, so fortunately some buggies were waiting at the end here to ferry us back up.
There's a whole street here full of kind of like street food and stuff. It actually looks pretty good, but unfortunately we are headed to lunch, so we won't be partaking of any of this. But dang.
最好的是在你们选的做高一点经过对，一定要，因为它如果只是做好像
So we are back in town, walking to lunch. Not sure what we're having yet. This whole mountain town here kind of reminds me a bit of Cameron Highlands back in Malaysia. Look at that. So this is goose. Somewhat unusual, but I've had it before.
The weather this morning had been pretty great, but as we continued to our next attraction, the fog intensified and a chilly gloom began to settle all around.
Okay, so we are now, I think, near the top of Xiannvshan Fairy Mountain, and this is, of course, the scenic area. Apparently, we're going to be taking some sort of a train.
So this is the Xiannvshan National Forest Park, apparently also called Dongfang Xiaoruishi, the Little Switzerland of the East. I have a hunch that they had a completely different sort of weather in mind though.
This appears to be a large, misty field, really. Not sure about Switzerland, but it is cold, I'll tell you that much. It's pretty damn cold here.
Honestly, there really wasn't too much to see or do, which made the number of tourists here rather curious.
mutton. One of my favorite snacks in China.
We were then ferried off to another nearby location, somewhere that apparently features horses. But honestly, in this weather, everything just looked like Silent Hill.
It has become even foggier, if you can believe it. Holy crap. I can hear the bells that are tied around their neck, so these are not wild.
Hearing disembodied bells worn by shadowy horses in the fog is probably not quite the intended experience here. But well.
So apparently this is a campsite. I am not sure if they are operating this time of year, but it doesn't look too attractive, not gonna lie.
Somewhere along the road was a sign declaring this the most beautiful highway. Well, if only I could see more than 10 meters of it. On the way out, Mom couldn't resist getting a sweet snack called 糍粑, made with glutinous rice and rather comparable to the Japanese mochi. It was finally time for dinner, featuring a steaming bowl of soup with local mushrooms. Very welcome after a freezing afternoon in the wet highlands.
Hey, cheers. Cheers. Hey. Cheers.
So ends another long day, and we settle into our hotel for the night's rest. Tomorrow, again, in characteristically wet weather, we travel to Pengshui County, where we encounter a stunning cultural site of the Miao people of China. Subscribe and join us.